What's up, dude?
Hey, man, how are you?
Oh, wow, look at my background. This is great. Man, I wish I even understood how to... Oh, I think I got it. Oh, nice. I'm looking normal now.
Yeah, there you go.
This looks fine. This looks fine.
Yeah, it looks good, man. Johny Fisher, local opener, man. How you doing? I just woke up. I am ready for the world. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good, man. I'm actually in your state right now.
Really?
I'm enjoying some California right now.
Where are you at in California?
I'm in Joshua Tree currently for a few days.
Oh, what are you doing there?
My girlfriend is having a birthday, and we both got fully vaccinated and both tested positive a few months ago. So we figure, we can come hang out in the desert, and that seems pretty safe.
Yeah. There's nobody around you.
Mm-hmm.
So you got tested. You had You had coronavirus.
I did. Yeah.
Whoa. How was it?
It was fine because I was already vaccinated, so I didn't have any of the side effects. So yeah, I got a little sleepy. I was fairly sleepy every day. Like walking up a flight of stairs, I'd be like, "Damn." I mean, that's already kind of how I feel, but it was even more exaggerated for sure.
So you got coronavirus in between your first and second vaccine shot?
I just did Johnson & Johnson, so I just had one shot.
Okay.
And then like 3.5 weeks after I was supposed to be clear, I tested positive.
Whoa, gnarly.
So really weird stuff.
Whoa, crazy.
But it wasn't that bad. It's like if you can get the vaccine, you can still definitely test positive, but at least you won't or at least the chances are that you won't have as many as intense side effects. So that was really lucky. I picked the right time to sneak into a grocery store and get stuck in my arm. That's for sure.
Right, totally. Oh my God, man. That's crazy. Okay, well, that makes me feel a lot better because I got the vaccine too, but I'm like, is it really going to work? Is this shit really going to actually work? But it sounds like it did work for you.
Yeah. All my friends that also got it, I work at a coffee shop, and that's where it all went down somehow. Like 8 of us went down within like 2 days.
Oh my God.
And no one else had been vaccinated. So they were definitely struggling, like really bad coughs and just weird stuff that I wasn't really going through. And we all went to a state park for a few nights because we were like, well, we all tested positive, so we can hang out together.
Got the antibodies.
We went out to a state park. And so they were I felt really bad for them. They were all sniffling and putting blankets on and then taking them off and then falling apart. And I was just like, let's go exploring. I want to go on a hike.
Right. Oh my God. That's crazy, man. That's so wild, man. Like I just started DJing again. I DJ'd the last 2 weekends and it's going to be a weird transition, man, for everyone. Like to get back into a little bit of normalcy, like getting out there and being in front of people, and then they're trying to walk up to the booth and talk to me. I'm just like, don't talk to me. No requests. Do not talk to me. Like, and it's gonna take a little bit of an adjustment, but I don't know. I'm nervous, but I think it's gonna. I don't know. Hopefully soon, this will all be over with. Like, I don't know. How do you feel?
It also feels like guilty. Do you feel guilty, like after, like even if you've been vaccinated and you've tested positive and you're not really a threat to anyone, you still feel like over obligated to like wear your mask and stuff, even though you're like, I'm not a threat to you or anyone, but you feel like you're a jerk, at this point. You're like, I have to keep this going, like, because not everybody is vaccinated yet, or people are old or pre-existing conditions. And you're like, I don't know how getting struck by lightning 2 or 3 times happens, and maybe it could happen to me, but I feel like that whole thing, distance and feeling strange, like approaching people, will probably be around for the next year or so still, just because we've been sort of the new mentality of just like be kind and keep your distance is such a mantra now,
Totally. And I like it, man. I really like that mantra. Like, for one, I hate being sick. Like, stay away from me. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna
definitely.
like in the future, as I see it going down, is that like if I have a cold, like the common cold, I'm still gonna wear my mask because I don't want to give it to other people. And I really hope that gets
Totally.
I really hope that gets adopted because I fucking hate getting the cold, especially if it's just from some fucking person who didn't want to wear a mask and like not spread their
Definitely.
cold to me. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
that's why I see it going down. Because you've gone on tour. Like, there's nothing worse than a fucking band member getting on tour. Like, I mean, getting sick on tour, and then like your drummer's sick and he's like passed out in the van while everyone else is doing fun stuff, or like you're afraid he's gonna get all of us sick in the van. Then if we're all sick in the van, then
100%.
it just circulates and it's so nasty.
And as the singer, like for you, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Like, what do you want me to like hum the songs, or like, let's let the drummer sing tonight, I'll just play drums? It's like,
yeah, totally.
It wouldn't be the same thing.
That's my biggest fear.
I once saw a band. Yeah, I once saw a band. I don't think anyone would even know. It was like a Texas thing a long time ago, but their singer got sick and they ended up letting the bass player sing. And it was surprisingly good. It was like, it was kind of like the same band, because I think they had been a band for so long that he just knew all the parts already, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's not normal. Typically people just cancel those shows and rest their voices because they're like, your boy can't hit but one note and it sounds like this all night long.
Yeah, totally. I definitely have tried to play shows like that, like in my younger days, and I could not do it. And now I'm like, okay, if it's really that bad, I just don't play the shows. If it's really that bad.
Totally. Then you can just DJ.
Yeah.
There's your healthy alternative. You can just DJ and make a night of it still and have fun.
Dude, we have definitely.
Your cover song you just put out is perfect. Do you DJ your cover song out?
No, man. The bar I've been DJing actually has my record up on the wall, and I'm always like afraid people are gonna be like, "Is that him? Wait, why is he on the wall? And why is he
plugging himself?"
Yeah, exactly. So I'm worried about that all the time. I have not played my cover live. I don't know, man. That cover was just like, I was having such writer's block during at the start of the pandemic. I was like, let me just start something from start to finish. And I was like, a cover would be good. Oh, I love that song by Michelle Branch and Santana. Like, this might break the writer's block, which it kind of did. I wrote a few songs after that, but like, totally. I think just seeing something through from start to finish like really helps. Like, do you have any tips? Like, what's your songwriter's block like tip to break through to the other side?
Oh, man, exactly what you did. A lot of the times I'll listen to sort of maybe like a playlist of genre of music that I don't often listen to, and then I'll just play along to it. And because I'm not that musician, what I end up with sounds nothing like that song, but that chord structure may have done something different, or like, hey, the lead line here is a xylophone. Like, that's bizarre. Or like, whatever, a trumpet sound, which I know you use with your tunes too. You tend to go back and forth with like electronic and samples, but then also there's like a classic element of like, I love classic horns, groove, like soul R&B, which is awesome. And I feel that way too. And there's limitless amounts of it out there, of every genre of R&B and groove across every country. It's like endless. Like even the South American groove music mixed with like weird like Indonesian like soul that's happening right now. It's like, it's really bizarre, but it's cool because none of them sound the same. So like, if ever I'm stuck, I'm like, what are they doing over there? And like, man, that makes me excited for music again. So I'm gonna maybe introduce a little piece of that into my music, which I think everybody, everything's been done for the most part, unless you've made a homemade instrument that no one's heard of, and you're singing some weird Gregorian guttural chant stuff that's probably never been done in a mainstream way. But I I enjoyed taking little feelings from other songs and other bands, because it's like my little tip of the hat of like, I really love what you do, so maybe I like half of this lick is a little, half of your lick, and then I'll message him and be like, hey, your song, though it sounds nothing like this,
Yeah.
sort of created the songs, and like it's really cool. And you know, sometimes they don't respond and it's funny, or other times they're like, I'm gonna sue you. I'm just kidding. But everyone's really nice, and I think everyone takes it the same way. It's like a means of kindness to sort of stem your inspiration from someone else, you know?
Right. I think the first time I learned anything about that, or like that whole philosophy, was like early 2010s, maybe 2009, when I first started getting into Dr. Dog, and Dr. Dog was getting fucking ripped, getting ripped by Pitchfork for being too derivative, and like watching interviews with them and seeing them explain that like all music is derivative. It's all taken from something. So, you know, if that's what they want to say in the review, that's fine. It was like their attitude was like, whatever, you can't do anything about it. It is what it is. And that's when I realized for the first time too, I was like, oh, that's very true. Because I was so worried about like sounding like other people. I don't want to sound like anybody else. I want to do my own thing, which I'm still like that. But like, if you do something that sounds similar, like that's just gonna happen. We've been making rock music for so fucking long now. The time.
Yeah, it's dead. I mean, to the extent that like leather jackets and stuff, if you're that guy, like it is still cool, like no knocking it, but it has been done now for decades.
Yeah.
And all art inevitably grows. Doesn't mean it's not like, you know, a revolving wheel of it. It doesn't mean that won't come back. Maybe in like 2090, leather jackets and being a greaser and riding motorcycles and playing rock and roll will be cool again. And that's cool. No knocking it. But, you know, I think, I don't know. I oftentimes maybe hit that writer's block more often than not, because I try to create every day or every other day. And at a certain point, you're like, I just made the same song 12 times and I can't put this out because everyone will be like, that's the same song. And like, I know like this is a dumb fact, but like Nickelback is the only band that sued themselves and lost because they were on two different labels and two songs from two different records sounded too similar. So the old label that still represented Nickelback sued the new song from Nickelback, their artist, on a different like shared label, sued themselves and lost. And I'm like, how embarrassing is it to sue yourself and lose because you're unable to create like even just a different song? Like if you're only going to put out 100 songs before you die, how are you going to make 2 of them the same? It's like painting and being like, I'm going to draw a circle on this canvas, and then on like 50 in be like, I'm going to draw a circle on this canvas. Oh wait, I already did that. Like why would I make 2 of the same thing?
I think Nickelback is really catering to a certain audience that like they want that same song over and over again, you know, just like slight variants. Like, in fact, they'd be upset. They'd be upset if they heard something new. Like, I don't know. There's that fine line, I guess. Like people want to hear songs that like, oh yeah, this is that sound I know. I love this band and I love their sound, and they're gonna keep playing that sound. But then when people deviate from that sound, you're gonna lose fans and you're gonna gain fans. Like this is coming from me. I went surf rock to jangle pop to, you know, as to what I'm doing now with the disco and soul stuff. Like I definitely have lost people along the way, but I've also gained a lot of people on the way. So
totally, yeah. Do you ever feel depressed on that? Like I feel like that expectation of fans. In particular, that fell in love with maybe your original sound. Right.
It's always the first album or the first EP or something.
Yeah. They're like, man, whatever happened? You guys stopped making this sound. And you're like, man, like, how could you possibly stay in the same mindset for 20 years? Otherwise, we would be like, you know, argumentatively, like emo music. It's like Taking Back Sunday. Like they made the same album over and over, but they were catering to that crowd. And now that crowd's 40. And Taking Back Sunday's merch table are like baby onesies and pacifiers and shit because they've just maintained that. But also kids in high school and middle school are still listening to like Under Oath and Chiodos and stuff as if it's relevant, and it's not. And those dudes are all like 42 years old, but they can only like Under Oath can't make like a chill, like Minus the Bear album or like a Bon Iver album or like be like, let's make pop music. Like that would be ridiculous. I would hate as an artist to pigeonhole yourself so much in a genre that it would be bizarre for you to make anything else tasteful in any other genre.
Totally.
You know?
And, it's, you kind of have to give credit to some of those bands because it is cyclical and now it's back. They waded through the water. They made it through the 2010s where it was like irrelevant and not cool. And now emo is making its way back. And I think a lot of these bands, this is their moment.
All about it.
That big album they had in 2004, it's time to tour it. This is it.
Yeah.
In its entirety.
I mean, that would be insane. Like, I feel for like the wives of those guys.
Yeah.
Where like they've been home for 10 years just doing dad stuff and stuff. And then they get a call one day from their agent and they're like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But you guys gotta like lace up the boots. We need you back out there.
We need you back out there.
Oh man.
The fans need you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like those bands have survived in the weirdest markets. Like, they don't play LA, they don't play San Francisco, but they will play Stockton, Fresno. Like, maybe they play Joshua Tree, maybe they play, like, in the middle of America. But they have managed to survive, I think, just not, like, in New York and all these other different bigger cities that you would, yeah.
Right, totally. Yeah.
Not knocking Stockton or Fresno, but I personally have never played there. I'm sure they're awesome places, like... But I haven't played any of those places yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't either, I think the suburbanist, I don't know if that's a word, but the most suburban area in California I've been was like Santa Ana.
Yeah.
And stuff there to like, is it like the observatory that's there or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a big venue. What a like honking place. Yeah. So big.
And the fans
I got lost a couple of times.
The fans are crazy, man. Those kids who show up to show in Santa Ana go nuts. I've never seen like an age group or a youth that goes so hard like at a show.
I know. And I find that like because we talk about this as a band constantly, and one of the biggest ways to get a band to come back somewhere is for the crowd to just be going ape shit, I guess. Otherwise, it's like, even if 400 people show up to your show, if they're all just standing there silent, or it's like weird and they don't know if the song's over, so then you have to like be like, the song is over. Like,
yeah.
It's just like weird vibes. But El Paso, like Laredo, any of those border towns, Hispanic crowds, I think they were saying more so is because not a lot of people stop in El Paso.
Right.
Like, it's not a major tour stop. So like those kids will drive across the border through customs to go to an indie rock show in like a 600 cap room. And it's like, I don't know, it's just exciting, where I feel like sometimes you might play in like a major city like Chicago or Atlanta, and these kids have been to like 4 shows this week, and maybe they're just kind of tired, maybe their ears are tired and they're tired. So to go and hit those like weird markets that just have people that just, they're like, I don't care if I have school tomorrow, work tomorrow, if church is tomorrow, your boy's crowd surfing,
totally
laughing and goofing off. It's like, what other time is there like to do that? It's not like you're going to like be out like at a track meet, just like crowd surfing with your friends and laughing and taking little shots under your jacket in the crowd or whatever. It's like, it's fun.
El Paso is such a good example, because like when we played there, it was just like, please come back. We love shows. Please, no one ever stops here. Like, they were so forward about saying, please come back to El Paso. It's a great fucking place to play. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I will now, because you said so. Of course. Like, you've made that connection clear that like, we love you. Please come back. I'm like, all right, I love you too. I will come back.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Check out Laredo as well if you're like leaving Austin. I mean, even San Antonio for that matter. I'm sure you played San Antonio, but
yeah, San Antonio is great.
That whole southwest side of Texas is just like, I'm from Texas, so I'm not being biased to everyone. Yeah, I'm from I was born in Dallas. I only lived there for a year, but I was raised in East Texas and Southeast Texas, a couple different towns. But I just feel like that crowd is very comparable to like Santa Ana, and very comparable to like weird towns in the South that people don't stop as well.
Yeah.
They're just like extremely grateful. And not to say that people in cities aren't as grateful, but I bet if those same kids flew to see your show in El Paso, they would be like, dude, this is the biggest band. Like, clearly the crowd's going like, but you could be anybody. You could be like, you could be a Creed cover band. Right. And those kids would just be like, yeah, because they're just so happy to just be out and hanging out.
I agree.
And the battle in life is to maintain that excitement and, you know, like luster for life forever. Like, I've always wanted to be like a 70, 80-year-old man, you know, still at shows. You know, maybe I'm creepy, but I'm also just like, hey, I just love shows. I've always been doing them. Like, come talk to me. Like, come hang out. Like, feel like that excitement for music should never really fade. But I never see just a rogue 80-year-old dude at my shows. But like, I hope to be that guy, you know, just like follow around cool indie bands and be like, man, I'm your roadie now, dude. I'm in my RV. I'm retired. Your boy's just going to be supporting you guys, buying you pizzas and hanging out, man.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen any 80-year-olds, but I have seen like 50, almost 60 at the shows. And
do you think that they're bringing the kids, or are they on their own?
I can't tell.
Do you think that
they have a drink in their hand, and they're usually with like two other people their age? I can't tell. This has always been in the Bay Area, in San Francisco. I don't know if it's just like older tech, like dudes hanging out. Like,
they're cooler.
Yeah, they're just a little bit cooler.
They get it.
Yeah, they get it. They've been around. They saw San Francisco change, and you know, there's still a little bit of old San Francisco in some of those people, and yeah, they're always cool. The one guy I'm thinking of in particular is like, he was like, oh, I'm from Glasgow. I'm like, oh, that's awesome, man. I love bands from Glasgow. He's like, yeah, you sound like Orange Juice. I'm like, oh, thanks. He's like, the problem is no one knows who the fuck Orange Juice is here. I'm like, oh, okay. All right.
Cool.
I'll take it, I guess. Like, yeah, I know, but hey,
that's fun.
San Francisco's a crazy place, man. And I'll take it. I like those people who are just hanging in the back, older dude, just coming to a show, drinking a fucking shot and just like, great set. Like, okay, I've seen a lot of bands. I've seen a lot of bands. Like, okay.
Last time I was in San Francisco, because our last tour got canceled before we made it to the West Coast. We were in Boulder, Colorado on like March 16th, and I think everything shut down then. And then so we spent one more night in Denver and then drove home the next day. So we never made it all the way out there again, but the last time we were there was 2 summers, like 2 years ago, with the No Vacation crew, and we played Great American Music Hall.
Oh yeah, that place is awesome.
My aunt lives, it's so fun, and my aunt lives in San Francisco, so her and I sold merch all night together. Just me and my aunt just kicked it back there, and just,
that's awesome.
It was wonderful. She was a blast. She was like wearing all the merch, just even like the sideways hat, just slinging to kids, and it was pretty funny.
I love it, man. Wait, so that was on the last tour, right when Corona started?
That was, I played Great American Music Hall with, I play in Dokey as well, and so we were out with No Vacation 2 summers ago, and then we were out with Breakup Shoes and Somersault in February to March, but then we only got to play 3 weeks of the 6-week tour.
That's right. Oh, wow.
But it was a hoot what we did play. It was really interesting. We saw snow, we saw heat, we saw everything, and then COVID, and then a snowstorm hit again, and I was like, and a tornado hit our neighborhood and took out our keyboardist and our singer's house while we were on tour. We were in Canada. So it was like one thing after the other. It was like, okay, their house is gone. So like all of the music scene and friends of ours gathered and like cleared out the whole house and moved everything into this mastering studio. Dudes, like their mastering company has like a whole storage locker.
Yeah.
And they just filled it with their whole house, like a grand piano, all this outboard gear, all our microphones. Everything was just like with no roof on top, windows out, walls out. So like they were like, you got to get it pretty soon, or either people are going to loot our home studio or it'll rain and ruin everything.
Yeah.
If it's not already ruined. The grand piano didn't make it.
Oh, really?
But Yeah, that one's it was a goner. The junk people came and grabbed it.
Oh, that sucks.
But yeah, so it's weird. We got hit by a tornado, and then 2 weeks later, the tour got canceled. And then, yeah, just a couple other hilarious things around town just keep happening. But I feel like at a point now where after so many bad things happen, you know, like you just understand that like that just happens all the time. Like bad thing. It's not like, you know, it's not like you're a victim. Right. It's not like Corona picked me to punish or a tornado picked me. It affected everybody. So like, yeah, I can't like really be like my life sucks, or because my house didn't get knocked down. I lived one street away from them, and somehow the tornado's course was like perfectly parallel to our street and took the whole other street out. Yeah. So I'm not laughing out of, you know, like making fun of them, but
it's just so ridiculous.
Sheer just like, man. Yeah, totally. It's outrageous. Yeah. So
yeah. So I know. I do that all the time. I'll laugh at something that's just like so ridiculous. I'm like, oh my, can you imagine that? And they're just like, why are you laughing? I'm like, it's just so crazy that like, how do you not laugh at that? Especially looking back as it's been like, you know, so many months later now, like, but how have you guys rebuilt? Like, how has it been? Like, have you taken anybody in? Like, do they have new places to live? What's the aftermath of the tornadoes?
Yeah, like, well, the tornado thing was strange because it took out like our most popular music venue on our side of town, and it took out, you know, really like timeless bars that have been there forever and ever that we used to go to when we were freshly 21.
Right.
Just like a bunch of, basically it randomly hit like the strip of things that probably hold the most memories for most people, as well as like the historic neighborhood of homes and stuff. So it was a bummer, but I think that through COVID and the tornado and a million other goofy things, and then, you know, just sort of civil unrest amongst the whole world, I guess, or the whole country. It was like everyone felt really banded together. At least I would say the music scene in Nashville, sans like country, you know, are pretty like-minded people. You know, you're hard pressed to meet like a musician that you respect and they're like Trump 2020. You didn't meet those people. So, you know, everyone's very kind. Everyone was very like mask friendly, even though it's the South. And even though we have Broadway, which is downtown, and, you know, Kid Rock has a bar where they just they never wore masks, and he just accepted the fine every night.
Wow.
Cause he was like, I won't do it. Like, it's all a joke. It's all a lie. And I'm just like, man, Kid Rock's not up to date with the Nashville music scene and trying to help us get back on the road.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Man, yeah,
but, yeah.
I was just say Kid Rock, man. He's it's so weird because I used to love him as a kid, like in the early 90s or in the mid to late 90s, like when I was watching. Yeah, totally. Man. And it's just it's crazy to see what that man has become, what a lot of those people from that scene have become, and you know, don't worship your idols, I guess I should say. I don't know what happened.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
We could have seen that one coming in hindsight.
Yeah.
But like alternatively, like, you know, like, do you follow probably Petey?
Yeah.
Love his music. It makes me laugh, but it's also quality.
Totally.
His videos make me laugh. And that video of like the man under the tarp where Fred Durst is under the tarp. And it's like, for me, at least that kind of thing, or even like, you know, and I haven't looked too much into it, but like even like Vanilla Ice, like I would have tagged them instantly of being like, those dudes probably are going to go downhill most likely. But then it's like, they're actually like some of the nicer ones that came out of it compared to like all the other creepy, like Puddle of Mud, or like, what were those other ones? Like Chevelle, like all those dudes are just like total dirt bags. And then you're like, wait, Vanilla Ice and Fred Durst are cool? No way.
Totally. I've actually talked to Fred Durst a couple times now.
I'm sure he's friendly.
He's super friendly. He's like, love the music, man. I'm like, thanks. I appreciate that, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fred. Yes, yeah. We're on the first name basis now.
I respect this guy. Yeah. I love that. That's got to be nice.
Totally.
That's cool. Yeah. Meeting people that are like maybe not a musical influence, but also maybe like just a plain influence. Like they had some part of your life.
Right. Absolutely.
It's weird to meet them.
Absolutely.
Do you feel less like nervous to talk to those idols? Like people that don't really like, you're not like trying to dress or act or do the same things.
I'm not trying to open up for him either, you know?
Yeah. But meeting those people is way easier than like, and for me, even like legacy acts, like older acts, I just know they're going to be nicer. So I'm less nervous. But if I go up to a band that's like my age and I'm just like, hey, I know this is weird, but like, I really like you guys. Wow. Like I instantly feel like they're looking at me like, cool, man. And I'm like, all right, well, see ya.
Well, that's my inner working thinking. Like, I can't be like that. And I can't treat people like that. Like if people like DM me and they're just like, yo man, love your music. Like I respond back. Like I don't ghost people like in that way. And I don't think other bands our age should do that to each other. Like if this is like the whole point of the podcast, like, we can't be that way. We should open up the community a lot more and just talk to people and find, if you like their music, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine. Don't be an asshole to people because you don't like their music. Like, if you're this age, I'm 30, I turned 31 like in 2 days. Like if you're still doing it at this point, you love it. This is your life. This is the life you've chosen. Like it's very hard. No one makes a lot of money. Like some people don't make any money, but it's still very fun. And at least for me, I'm doing this for fun, and I'm getting back to the point of doing this and making moves all strategically. And if I open for this person, that means so-and-so's label will see me and blah, blah, blah. That shit got so wrapped up in my head in my mid-20s that like I wasn't having fun anymore. And now I'm in my 30s and I just want to have fun. If I take a tour, it's because I think it's going to be fun, not because I think it's going to be good for my career. It's like, oh, I'd like to hang out with that band for like a month. That sounds fun. Like, I'll take that. Like, that's like my rule right now. And as far as working with booking agents or managers, it's just people who love the project. Like, even if they're so-and-so's at a bigger company, but this person who's at a smaller booking agency just loves the project so much. All right, let's work with them because they're obsessed. And I like that.
Yeah. And if any bands are watching this in terms of our sweet 30-year-old advice, it's like, I totally agree with that. It's like, we have a smaller agency now, but we play the exact same rooms. Right. And if anything, we get better offers and guarantees because that guy's actually like fighting for us instead of a big agency who has like 20 bands bigger than us and we're like the bottom of it all. Mm-hmm. And like when we were with an old band I was in college, we were listed right under Snoop Dogg. And I remember being like, that's really cool, but I'm never going to play with him. And I will never play with any of these artists because they're all way too big and not in our genre. It just doesn't make any sense. Is it cool to have my name under them? Yes. Does it help my career? No, it does not. And to have a small agent fighting for you or a manager that wakes up every day sending emails and lining things up and taking care of your questions, then like that's when you're, that's when you should be comfortable. Even if things aren't happening, things aren't happening for a lot of people. It doesn't mean that you suck. It just means keep fighting. And you could put out 6 albums and that 7th album could be what really changes everything for you, but you just can't ever stop. You're not allowed to. If you're choosing music, you can't just be like, if this album I put out doesn't make me famous, then I'm giving up music and I'm gonna become a real estate agent. It's like, dude, just be a real estate agent anyway, dude, but keep making music, keep putting out albums.
That's so funny because
why is it one or the other?
That's if I'm literally doing real estate classes right now because I'm like, I'm just gonna do both, dude.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
If I could sell one house and then go on tour, that'd be sick. Like,
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, there's like chill electronica music playing while I'm grabbing one more beer here.
It's all good. It's all good.
But I totally agree. And also on the topic of going on tour with bands that that you'd get along with or that would be like just a relaxing tour, the crowd feels that. Like when you jump up on stage and do a cover together, or the other band's singer comes out and sings the verses of a song, or whatever, that energy is what makes the show exciting. Like, nobody wants to come see the same show year after year, just 4 dudes standing still on stage singing you their sad songs or whatever, or their happy songs. It's like, switch it up. And the best way to do it is to bring family or potential candidates of your family.
Right.
Because it'll last forever. Like, in Nashville, I've been there for 13 years. And, you know, back before Cage was popular, Cage the Elephant guys, there was a band called Autobahn, and they were wildly popular. They had like this Brit Arctic Monkeys sound, and they got signed to RCA with Cage, I believe. I may be wrong on the label, but I'm pretty sure that's who it was. And then Autobahn used to bring Cage the Elephant out on the road to open for them. And they would play like 500 cap rooms, 400. It was like us. It was like playing like little indie rooms. And then Autobahn became immediately sort of outdated. And there was already a Kings of Leon. There was already a Arctic Monkey. Like, their spot was filled.
Yeah, totally.
If you will. And then Cage put out Ain't No Rest for the Wicked. And then that exploded them. But then Cage would bring out Autobahn to open on their big fancy room tours, because they were like, you took us out, now we're taking you out. And it's just like, that's kind of, you know, you're establishing friendships and relationships that are like, no matter who's succeeding, we're going to keep raising each other up together. Even if I'm more popular than you, or maybe next year you're more popular than me, it doesn't mean you can immediately like, oh, I'm popular now, I don't have to respond to these like shitty bands emails anymore because I'm above it. It's like, that's how you become like a one man on top of a mountain by yourself, and you're lonely kind of vibe. It's like your Justin Bieber I'm so lonely moment.
Totally. Absolutely, man. I think like along the way, people have been asking me, like, yeah, how'd you get so-and-so on your podcast? How'd you get that? It's like, I just met them along the way. I've been doing it a really long time, and you kind of meet someone before they blow up or before whatever happens, and you're still, it's still like Field Medic. That's still just Kevin I met at a show in San Francisco. Like, you know him as Field Medic, but I know him as the guy who was in a different band, and he was just playing guitar in that band. And like, it's stuff like that that happens all the time, that like, you just have to be nice, man. You just have to be nice and sweet to people. And, you know, you never know who you meet. And it's also not even about that, but like, you know, coincidentally, it will be like about that. Like, random people you meet along the way will do well, and maybe they take you out, maybe they don't, and maybe you just have friends, and maybe you start a podcast, and here I am in my room, you know, like random things happen.
Yeah. And making songs with other bands is so important.
Right.
Like, I think collaboration is like something that exists in country music. It exists in rap. It exists
hip-hop,
in like and pop music. Like, it's just everywhere, but it's not predominantly in indie rock or indie music in general. Only in the last years, like this new, like, you know, what is it? Avalanches and MGMT remix new song, kind of like somewhere in, and then there's like a Plain White T's song, I think, or something. There's like a weird band that just put a song out that sounds a lot like Tame Impala, but it's just funny to watch these bands now. They're like, oh, we should collaborate. We both have 1 million followers, but together we have 2 million. And it's like, indie bands need to be like, I only have, you know, 30 to 50,000 followers, but if I find a band that also has 30 to 50,000, I'm twice as big. And that's how you grow, you know, musically. It's like, it's no different than any profession. Is like tag teaming something together. You're going to get it done in a bigger and faster and better way, I think. And it's more creative. And I think that's something that we've done. And I just did with this first album I put out. I just hit up a bunch of friends like you did with this podcast. I was just like, hey, I can't tour. I can't release, you know, I don't want to put out my own album by myself first, because no one knows who I am and no one listens to me. So I'd be putting out a whole album to 0 people and being like, I hope you like it. So getting to make songs with friends, it's fun because they were all made at different times. No one was in the room with me. All of it was done file sharing over, you know, online. and it came out sounding totally normal, and both bands get to split the profits. It's like,
cool.
It doesn't seem very crazy to me, but you can grow really quickly if you stop focusing on you and you start focusing on a community, especially when indie music isn't quite as large mainstream wise as country, rap, or pop.
Right.
It's like, we need all the help we can get.
Yeah.
So, you know, we should be collaborating with 6 bands on one song.
Totally.
You know, and you're like, dude,
and there's room
with
for
all
it.
of us together.
Yeah,
totally. And with all of us together, like, there's gonna be 4 verses and you guys just sing the bridge. It's like, we could make it work, but at least then maybe 1 million people might listen to it, and we could all cheers each other and be like, good job.
We're doing
like,
something.
We all collectively made something that worked. Yeah. And like, look at Gorillaz. Like, Gorillaz is a great example. Like, he just brings in constant producers and different singers and different elements, and like, it's nowhere near like what he was making with rock music, but as soon as they separated, he became almost twice as famous, just making really crazy electronic music that grew based upon who he collaborated with, not just him. But then after 5-6 years, now he has a name for himself and doesn't need necessarily someone else, but he always does. Cool. Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's so important, Matt. I've said this a lot on this podcast too about the need for collaboration. I want to get deeper into your record though. Like, who was the first person you collaborated with? Like, how did the whole file sharing thing, that process go? Like, who had the original nugget for the song, and did you have all the original seeds for every song and sent it to them and like, here's a song I think you would sound great on? How did that go?
Yeah, the first person I worked with was Boyo, and I love Boyo. And again, it was just a band crush. All of these are band crushes of mine, really, when it comes down to it. It's like, and I tell them it's like it's my digital scrapbook, to where when I'm 70 years old, I can still get on whatever streaming service there is and listen to me singing with people I really respect. When I was, you know, much younger. But yeah, I basically just created a bunch of music with some friends of mine in my town. I would write something and I would sing a hook. I would sing like the chorus, if you will, or the repetitive nature part of it, maybe a riff. And then I would just create an entire structure. And then I would think, who do I know that this genre and this type of song make the most sense with? And then I would start at my dream list, and I'd start at the top. And if no one would respond or someone was busy or something, I'd be like, let me make another song for someone similar. And I'll just move this little part around, or I'll add like some MIDI congas in the middle, and it'll sound more like this. And I can call this person. So I was more so just trying to pair people that either I was catering to their music and their listeners blended with me. If it was like my version of it, my remix of their music done in an original song. Or I would think, like with Robert from Boyo, I was like, he would sound incredible over like a Beach House meets Beach Boys concept. It's like slow and trancy, but there's tons of harmony and weird vocal melodies kind of carrying the rest of the song. And he was open to that. And likewise, like with Dent May, like, I've been a big fan of his long before I knew him. And I would stay up and like, you know, I would like, you know, trip acid and listen to like Dent May at night. And then whenever I would like be like, dude, Warm Blanket, like all of it. Like, I played the band from Mississippi, to where like he was a staple in Oxford and Jackson. And so anyway, when I first collabed with him a few years ago in a different project with Dokey, it was just weird because he just instantly responded and was like, I'm down. Like, he didn't even hear the song. He was just like, let's do it.
Yeah, he loves the collab for sure.
He does. And he's got it figured out, because he's so good at understanding what a song is, rather than like, oh, I wish it was more like this. I'll just sing it to what I wish it was like, and maybe it'll still come across. It's like, he knows how to take a song, and all great writers know how to take a song and to, you know, make it the best that it can be of what it is. You know, no one wants to hear like, you know, I guess during like kind of croony 50s, 60s sort of vibes. You don't want to hear like someone doing like rap rock over it, or like POD kind of stuff.
Totally.
But that dude just understands the whole, again, I always credit the Beach Boys just because I love Brian Wilson a lot, and I like his songwriting styles, and Dent always, to me, I always tell people, is like our generation's Brian Wilson, just in what he's able to create that is so original, but also sounds incredibly timeless. I feel like it could easily be a 70s classic, you know?
And he has a tonality to his voice that sounds like he's like a Wilson brother, like one of the lost Wilson brothers, which is like what drew me to his music in the first place.
Yeah. Where does he get it from? Because like Oxford, Mississippi, everyone I know from there, it's got a completely different accent. So I don't know where he gets that.
True. Yeah. I think it's there when you hear him talk. It's like a little in there, but not really. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I talked to him. Well, I talked to him on this podcast like at the beginning of the pandemic when his new record came out, and that was really fun. And that's a good episode to go listen back to if you have time. But like, Dent's so cool, man. I fell in love with his music right when Warm Blanket came out, and I still have Warm Blanket on vinyl. I DJ'd it last weekend. Like, you know, it's great.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah. I always laugh because like some of them I'm like, this would make a great, like someone could remix this so well. Yeah. But then I'm like, they already are kind of like they're dance like songs. Like Born Too Late is a dance song that's so good. And that and then he coughs even, he's like and you're just like, dude, Dent is like a total nerd, but he's in there like cough tracking on a dance song, and then like, I don't know, that sort of confidence and that sort of persona to me is it's pretty unique. Do you remember the show The Little Giants, the movies?
Oh yeah,
the movie with the like little football team.
Yeah,
there was like one guy on the team that always like had tons of boogers coming out of his nose.
Yeah,
but at the end of it, he puts foam in his mouth, and like he looks up at the linemen on the other team, and he's got like foam coming out of his mouth, and then he's like knocking them all over, and they're like 5 times his size. I feel that way. Like Dent to me is like this like obscure talent that no one understands, that if you put him next to someone that is wildly famous and, you know, has millions of fans, I guarantee you Dent could create and sing them under the table.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Which always, it makes me glad that he's not popular, because I get him to myself a little bit more, I suppose.
He's more accessible.
But, yes, but that guy should be light years ahead of the rest, because he's really, really talented. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's the best, man. Like, and like understanding his brain, doing the podcast, like of where he, you know, he like someone like Adam, the one who passed away from COVID, who wrote like That Thing You Do, and he wrote a lot of music for movies and Fountains of Wayne. Adam Schlesinger, like Dent wants to be like that, just like writing songs for movies and TV shows and just being he just loves classic songwriting, and that's why Dent is so cool, because I relate. I also love just classic songwriting, like, you know, the nice verse, chorus, a solo break, whatever, like the classic structures and the classic melodies and the classic chords. Like that's
totally,
I relate to that stuff too.
The Beatles coined it to a T.
They did,
and people love and hate the Beatles, but man, they gave you exactly what you wanted.
Right.
There was never a part where you were like, I don't really know where they're going with this. Yeah. It's like they immediately turn it right back around and saying exactly what you're expecting to hear. Like even in their original stuff, where he's like singing about not wanting to spoil your party, so he'll go, and just like stuff like that. It's like, what a rock and roll statement to make as like one of your first few songs. It's just like, they already know they're the bad boys, but they're wearing like suits and smoking cigs and like
totally
not, you know, like they were just they were cool before cool was cool, and they didn't even know it in the beginning, which I think is, you know, I think that about like bands like Twin Peaks and stuff, you know, even like the Nude Party, it's like they probably, you know, don't know how cool they are,
right?
But I'm sure that looking back, you know, I'm sure their music will remain equally as timeless in this scene of sorts of just like, you know, I don't know, just like kids are going to be kind of blown away that Um, those dudes were cool at like 17.
Yeah, they were so young.
It took me, yeah, and it took me to like, you know, way too late, like a decade past them, to understand being comfortable enough to get on a stage and not feel really nervous and weird. And on top of that, to understand songwriting and stuff. Like those dudes at 17 were just like, fuck it, let's just put out a bunch of music. And there's going to be, like with Nude Party, like there's going to be 10 of us or 9 of us or whatever. Yeah. And it's going to work. It's like, what a pipe dream, but
totally,
you know, but they're great, you know.
It took so much time, like when I started the band when I was 20, 21, 22, to feel comfortable on stage, right? To like have a good base of like what an on-stage performance is, and once you feel comfortable, being able to elevate it and make a great show, and then getting comfortable in the studio, which is something I had absolutely no idea how to do. Like all my early recordings, I'm just like, oh my god, like it was always working on a time limit. We only had like, okay, you guys got 4 hours to record this one song, you guys, right? And it's like we're paying somebody else who doesn't understand the kind of tones we want, like. And like we don't know how to like vocalize it. We want this kind of tone. Like we're trying to show them other songs. Like, do you think we can get something like this? And then it's like an older dude, older engineer who's like, yeah. It's like, oh, it's too much reverb. You guys don't want that much reverb on your voice. And you're like, kind of no, do though. We kind of do.
Yeah.
So, and that took time.
Yeah. And do you feel that way about live shows too? Like kids don't understand. Like sometimes we've had kids come up to us at the end of the show and be like, last time you guys were here, you sounded like a lot better. Like, we don't know, like, and then you're like, well, this is nice. Like, I do appreciate really blunt kids.
Yeah.
Like, or anyone, like an adult, anybody, to be honest. But I'm also like, that dude behind the board back there that's controlling what you guys hear, he's never listened to our band. He's probably listening to like Leonard Skinner and AC/DC, and then has to move into this venue against his will to try to listen to our band for an hour on stage to try to get sound check going.
Totally.
Yeah. And like for sure, just cause we're the same way. We love tons of reverb. We like, you know, Aaron always says like, we want to sound spooky. And he always says the ghost of Christmas past. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally what we want to sound like. But whenever we listen to live recordings back, you know, our
super
voices
dry.
are just like bone dry.
Yeah. No, that happens all the time, man. Like especially when you're on tour and you can't, it's really hard to afford your own sound person. Like, it's so tough. And in Santa Barbara, I can at least control it because I can ask a friend who I trust to do the sound. But like, that'd be nice. That'd be nice to get to that level where I can just like take the same person on tour and just like make sure it sounds dialed in every day. And that's why headliners always sound so good. They have their person. They have, or they have like what's that little thing where you can program your sound and then you just plug it into each board? I don't know. It's like my bass player was telling me about it on tour, but you can like program your own settings, and then like for each board you just hand to the sound guy and like, here's what we want. Adjust, but like this is pretty much what we want. Adjust for the room.
I guess that would work as long as you're always using a digital board,
right? Yeah,
that works with that type of card. I guess that could work.
Yeah. Most venues,
like
a lot
of your SD, grungier room.
Yeah.
SD card thing. Yeah, we got lucky, and I'm sure you've had similar situations where like the headliner does have a sound guy. And then that sound guy will be like, I'm already here. I've been out on the road with you guys for weeks. Let me run sound for you guys tonight. Just toss me like $30 or something.
Right.
And yeah, it was funny. Like we met a guy on that No Vacation tour. The sound guy, his name's Cooper Davis. He's a Jersey guy. He did the whole tour with them, their whole EU tour. Cool. He just had their sound. Like he brought his own board. So every night they sounded the exact same. Like I kid you not. It was like it was like listening to a record every night because he had it figured out. And so after a few weeks, he was just like, dude, I'm just going to start recording y'all sets because I already have my board. Everything's up. Like, I'll just do whatever. And now he's like working on putting together like a live album from different nights of different cities and stuff. And I'm just like, that is a cool sound guy. Like the not cool sound guy is the guy that like calls you the wrong name 5 times in a row and like forgets to turn on your amp mic or whatever, and you're just like, what's going on? And then he's like, I gotta take a cig break, and you're like, we haven't done anything yet. But that's a majority of the sound guys. I feel like sometimes they just, you know, and I get it, every night you've got to mix bands, but you've got to really love music to be a sound guy. Like that is a job, and an engineer in a studio, like that's a job where you hardly see the sunlight. I feel like you're just locked in a room with your ears focused.
Especially recording engineers, man. Like studio time can go by so fast. It's like a fucking time machine. You look up and you're like, oh, it's already like 8 o'clock. We've been in here for 8 hours already. Like shit.
Do you not record yourself?
Very, very rarely. Like we recorded the album Rare Attractions by ourselves, except for the one track we did with Jonathan Rado. We did our first album with Jonathan Rado, and then the new album we flew in Paul Cherry, but we basically did that ourselves in our studio. Yeah.
Cool. I know Paul's about to move to LA.
That's what I heard. I heard about that.
That's the word on the street, he said. Yeah, I got the lowdown.
Does he have to though?
Straight from the source.
Does he have to? That's why I say, like, I think you can live in the way the music industry is now. You don't have to live anywhere. You can live everywhere. You're the internet.
No. It's a personal preference. I agree. Yeah. And like, man, I hate knocking on states or cities because like, it's not anyone's choice of where they live or are raised or anything. Like, it's like even being on this earth, we didn't choose to be born. We just happened to be here right now doing exactly what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But Little Rock, Arkansas, to me, has always just been one of the most confusing places. And I'm always like, do people live here? Like, I love Hot Springs. I go there very, very often. It's close to my dad's. My dad lives on the Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas border. Mm-hmm. So, like, I love the areas. But Little Rock, we've played there, like, 2 or 3 times. And I'm always just like, I don't think people live here. Or like, we're wildly unpopular here. Which could be, but anyone we've ever talked to has been like, yeah, I just don't, I don't know how to get kids to show up there. Meanwhile, I get on Instagram the other day and I see this band that started following me. I click them. They're called Joan, and they're from Little Rock, Arkansas. Nice. And they make like really interesting 90s pop music, like funny, but like cool. It's like Hot Flash Heatwave or like The Garden, sort of in the meeting of those two, like visually. But then they make like almost like, and I'm not making this up, it's like almost like a cool Backstreet Boys. Very bizarre.
Sweet.
But they have tons of followers. And I'm like, and I messaged them just like, are you guys lying? Like, do you actually live in Little Rock? And they're like, yeah, we do. And I'm like, that's insane. Like, I can't believe it. But it just like you're saying, it goes to show you can live anywhere and have a successful career. All it takes is having great art and being open and willing to travel all the time. Because if you can put in, 200 dates a year for like 4 or 5 years, it sounds insane, but like that's kind of what you have to do. It's like small businesses typically fail in the first 3 or 4 years. Wow. Even like restaurants or coffee shops. Mm-hmm. So like bands, we have a fraction of that income, so we have to work twice as hard. Not to say that small businesses aren't working hard, but we have to like get 4 guys in a van. Drive 8 hours a day to get paid $250 a night in hopes that random people decide to show up to buy merchant. It's like, it's a very sketchy biz.
It's a traveling salesman. Totally. We go from city to city. Here's our merch. We have shirts, records, like that's like the brick and mortar basically we set up. And that's why some venues want a percentage because which I don't agree with, but like,
that is my pet peeve. I will literally battle. I've gotten in many of vocal fights, and I'm the least confrontational person in the world. I never see a reason to argue or fight if I don't have to. Right. But every time people come up to us and they're like, all right, we need 15% of y'all's merch tonight. Keep track of your merch. Yeah. I'll just end the night and be like, we sold 2 CDs later. Yeah. And I'm just like, we paid. If the venue wants to cover the cost with us on making it, then I'm happy to. Or like, as bands, you're paying your management 15% of all, of all income made, right? And if you have an agent, you're paying 10% of all shows, right? So every night you play a show, 25% of your income is gone to your team, right? Yeah. So instantly you play like, let's say a $200 opening gig, like $50, you have $150 to pay 4 guys.
Yeah.
And then the venue is going to come in and say, hey, give us 15% of what actually will help you guys like buy
Survive.
ramen noodles and get gas. So that's where I'm like, yo, then give me 5% of your bar sales, because we brought the people here.
Right.
That's where I'm like, if that's the way you want to play it, then give me a part of what you've got. I'll give you a part of what we've got.
Yeah.
And let's just party tonight. But they'll fight you.
Yeah, they'll fight you. As soon as you start bringing up the bar tab, like, oh, I'll take a percentage of the bar then. That's where they get really defensive. And
absolutely.
Because they know they just made $7,000 at the bar. Like, I've seen it. I've seen the tabs when you check out, you see, like, yeah, they make more at the bar than we did at the show, even if it's like a door deal and we sold out and you make $4,000 and then you look and that, oh, you still made $7,000. Holy shit. Like, how are we still
looking in the talent buyers, his job is to always seem like underwhelmed.
Yeah.
His job is to always be like, we could have done better, guys. Like, next show, we're really going to push it. And I'm like, yo, like, I know that those bartenders made tons of tips. I know that your business doesn't cost $7,000 a day. And I know that your owner is probably driving like a Mercedes and living in a comfy home, but we're all renting places and we're in a fucking metal bullet driving 70 miles down a highway every day to get to you. So like, come on, just be nice to us. And a lot of the venues are, and the venues that are nice to you, they're the venues that we want to go back to every time. Like I found, a huge community in just the people that work at a lot of these places that we play. So if we go back and we don't see them, we're bummed out. And like, we have certain places that like the employees will special request to work the nights that we're playing so that we can all like hang out and laugh and crack jokes. And going back to the whole purpose of your podcast again, it's like all of it is very dependent on just kindness and accepting that anyone's kindness or support or them sharing you or telling their friends or you telling them about, like, for us to be like, Saturn in Birmingham is wonderful, or like Songbird in Chattanooga or the Burl in Lexington. These are all places that they go out of their way for you, know? And they don't have to. Like, they don't have to be like, here's a free place to stay, and it's got 10 bunk beds, and there's beer in the fridge for free. Don't worry about it. Like, we got you guys. We ordered you pizza. Other venues are like, here's 2 tokens to get you 2 PBRs, and there's carrots and celery in the back. And you're like, you think we only eat carrots and celery? Like, look at me, man. I'm a grown man.
Totally. I believe it, man. Yeah, I think it's you have to shout out those places that help out these young bands as you try and navigate your career and these early stages, or just a stage of your career of playing these random shows, and it's good. And yeah, man, the podcast is just so crazy. It's free. It's like the only thing I do that I don't want money for. I don't ask for money. It's just like, the podcast is free. I want to promote people. I hope people listen. I see the listenership growing, at least on the audio side, like every month. So I feel like I'm feeling pretty good. I think something is happening. It's taking time. It's taking grinding every month, just making sure that I do it all the time, which has been really easy during the pandemic, because what else am I fucking doing? I saw a lot of people start podcasts during the pandemic. I wonder how many will stay. Like, I'm always wondering, I'm like, okay, you're in it now, like, but this is a very unique space. Like, I'm sure as soon as the world opens up again, you'll be out. You won't give a fuck about this. Well, I, on the other hand, will give a fuck about this after the world opens, because this is just what I like to do. If anything, I'm more excited because I want to get back to doing these in person again. Like, the first couple episodes were face to face, and like that was awesome. And now I can't wait to get back to just doing these face to face again. And because there's just an energy, like you and I are having a great conversation, but I can tell sometimes Zoom is really difficult for some people. And it's like, you seem like you do. Do you do these a lot? Do you do interviews, or do you talk a lot on Zoom for work or for whatever?
I talk to people a lot in general. So like at my coffee job, I have to talk to people. So it's really helped my social skills a lot.
Totally.
To just be like, hey, how are you?
Yeah, totally.
Good morning. But I feel like I like people, and it's a part of why I like not only the idea of music, but traveling and touring, because those are the things you remember, and even if they get fuzzy because you've toured for so many years and things run together, you still had all those memories and you still had all those experiences. And there's two of you that had them usually, or a few of you, to where even if you forget, other people will remind you, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that was really, really fun. Like, I love that,
Totally.
So I think that music is great, but I think this past year has shown us more than ever that, like, being together and experiencing it in person, and having open dialogue on stage to the crowd and after the show, together, just everything. It is the difference of, like, feeling gratified and also, like, really doing it. And just, like, otherwise, like, even just putting out singles during COVID, you feel like you're just sort of, like, trying to throw out, like, appetizers to keep people, like, sort of still feeling it, to where when you do come back, hopefully they haven't forgotten about you. It's like the forget-me-nots. It's like, hey, don't forget, we're still around. It's just COVID,
Right.
So, like, like Okey Dokey's put out an album and an EP. I put out a collab album and recorded another album, and then Okey Dokey's about to drop another album at the end of the summer of some stuff. So we just kind of took the time to just create endless amounts of stuff, just because we had nothing else to do, So it's getting to that point, though, where if anyone has that same idea of, like, maybe I should really stock up some stuff, like, the next 2 months or 3 months are kind of the last of it, because then normal touring kind of starts again in August, you know? So
that's what it's looking like, huh?
Like,
October, August. Yeah. Do you guys have anything planned,
So
Okey Dokey or local opener? Are you hitting the road?
Yeah, we have a bunch of stuff in the summer and the fall, and we're kind of just booking every city. So if there's a city out there, we're probably playing it.
Yeah. Outdoor shows inside a venue? Like, what are these shows looking like?
It's everything. It's kind of dependent on the size of the city, right? So in certain places, if venues have outside options, we request the outside.
Cool.
In other cities, they'll have stipulations to where it's 50% capacity. It just sort of depends on the place. So again, like, the band's all shot it up and feels pretty fine even now, but I think there's also a kindness in waiting and not being the first to do anything. And I know that there are leaders that will, push forward and lead the pack.
Right.
But when it comes to things that are touchy and risky for health or for, like, the world of sorts, you feel like an obligation and not want to be the first. So once we saw tours were starting to get announced, we reached out to our agent and we were like, hey, let's try to fill these rooms, in a safe time. So we're aiming towards, October, November and stuff, with scattered like weekends from like June, July, August and stuff.
Okay. So just like a couple weekend shows, Weekend Warrior.
Yes. Which I love. I love
totally.
That. It's really nice.
Okay. So that way
it's a healthy amount.
You can keep the coffee gig, hit the road, take a couple weekends off, and then come back. And
yeah, until everybody wants to start a Kickstarter for indie bands and donate billions of dollars.
Yeah,
I think most of us will still have coffee jobs. It was funny, even on the No Vacation tour, like 3 of us on the whole tour were baristas. So like we would like kick it together and go to coffee shops and like say really snarky things. And like, even though we're totally not weirdos, but then when we were on the Somersault Breakup Shoes tour, I went to Manhattan to the coffee shop that Harrison from No Vacation worked at.
Nice.
And we like bombarded his coffee shop while he was working without telling him. And we were like, yo, what's up, dude?
That's hilarious.
I love the coffee community, like coffee and music. And the other day, you know, in California, you can buy weed. I don't know if you knew this.
Yeah,
and,
I do.
Yeah, and at the coffee shop or at the weed shop, the lady was just like, man, weed and music, man. Like, where would one be without the other? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess so. But then I was just like, that's also like could be said for like coffee with certain genres, and then beer with like beer and cocaine with country music. It's like, I guess if you're talking like Cheech and Chong, like their funny songs, or like Snoop Dogg, or like, you know what I learned is that Louis Armstrong was an avid weed smoker and endorsed the shit out of it. I had no idea.
That's crazy.
Like, I thought Louis Armstrong was just like a classic, just like horn guy and like wore a tux and stuff. Dude is on the record constantly just being like, weed is not a drug, it's a flower. Like,
there you go.
Like, where would we be without it? And I was like, Louis Armstrong said that? Like, that's insane.
That's crazy.
But I feel that way, and the rest of the band, you know, is scattered on that idea of it all. But I enjoy the connection of music with everything, and that's what's really funny is like whether you're addicted to Capri Suns or Tang or ginger ale or Coca-Cola or beer or liquor or whatever, music expresses all those things. Like, you know, it's like even candy, you know, like you make me feel like candy, or like Aaron Carter put out a cover of it and it was his number one shitty song. It's like clearly like everything relates to music because music describes everything. So I think it's so funny when like at least heady people are like, you know, without drugs, where would music be? And I'd be like, dude, without women, where would music be? Without men, where would music be? Like all of it centers around everything. It's like I could write a song right now about plants and rocks and little road runners running around, but it, you know, it doesn't require, you know, me eating a roadrunner to understand how to write a song about a roadrunner. But
totally.
I don't know. I just I think I'm with you in that I would like to die old and still pushing out music, like John Prine vibes. It's like that dude that I can I remember everything song he put out right before he died. It's like the saddest song in the whole world, and he's basically just saying that like, even though I know I'm about to die, my memory is right there. Like I remember every facet of everything I've ever done, and I'm super like I'm happy with that. That's enough for me. And I love that. Like I love like even like I Hurt Myself Today by Johnny Cash right before he passed away. They're writing the most heartfelt, like those are the most key songwriters, at least in that genre. And they still wound up singing a very similar song like within months of them dying. And you're like, there's got to be something there that like the whole dream is to always at least remember as much as you can and be happy, so that at the end you've left behind. It's like when they say like, leave it on the court. It's like, if you're going to play a game, you better put your all out there. That's right. And that's where I'm like, those dudes are putting it all out there. And then at the end of it, right before they pass away, they're like, I remember every little facet and I remember it all and I loved it and I had a blast. It's really nice to hear old people sing and not sing in a jaded way, you know, like sort of like, I guess you could say like the Oasis concept, you know, with the brothers. It's like, that's the opposite, I guess you could say, you know? But yeah, I'm glad that there's other people that want to be happy forever.
Totally. I completely agree, man. That's like, leave it all on the court is something that I've told myself. Leave it all on the stage. Like post show, I am worthless. Like, because I am so tired. I am just drained. I'm sweating. I ran out into the crowd. Like I'm talking to people. I'm telling jokes on stage. Like it's like a full fucking thing. And I really put a lot of my energy into that set. So after the show, I'm fucking zonked, dude. I'm laying on the couch, like in the back, like, yeah, I guess I'll go get the money. Thanks, guys. Like, can you pack up? Like, you know, I've also have like slowly gotten a smaller amp, a lighter guitar. Like I don't bring my hollow body out anymore. I bring a smaller guitar, just like a Jazz Master. Like I've been in the process of making myself so much lighter because I feel at the end of my shows I'm just so beat. I'm just so tired.
Yeah.
Like, and
I'm in the same boat. We're the same person, dude. I'm the same way. Gone from like a half stack to a 212 to a now a 112, and I'm just like, yes.
Yes. Mic it up. It will sound good. Just I want to make this thing easy. And you want to save space in the van. Like I used to take my Fender Twin, and that shit took up like, I don't know, a third of the back of the van. Like
totally.
It was just, and it's like, for what? For what? Yeah.
There was this band I played with years ago, and the guitarist's dad was in a very famous band in the 70s. And when we would play Birmingham, where his dad lived, we would have his old band open the night, right?
Oh, cool.
So like all these mega old people, and like there was a woman front, she was the front woman, and she wore like this like flowy like hippie thing and would sing sexual songs.
Whoa.
It was very awesome. It was very cool to watch old people, like the pedal steel player had to be like carried on stage. He looked like the Crypt Keeper, but they're just nailing it. And whenever we were up in the green room before the show, the whole band was laughing at us, and we were like, "What?" And Sam's dad was like, "Man, one day y'all are going to get old and you're not going to want to wear those tight pants and those boots and all like in that shirt." And he's wearing sweatpants and Crocs.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I love what I wear on stage." And he literally walked up on stage, took his Crocs off, put them to the side, and just played in sweatpants and a t-shirt. And he's like, "This is where it's at." And I was like, I hope that when I'm like 65, 70, your boy's going to be up there in Crocs and sweatpants for sure.
Yeah. No, dude, I basically wear that on stage. I'm very comfortable on stage. Like, I don't wear shoes. I wear like Croc sandals. Like that's like my main. That's like my main tour get up, man. Like I'm built for comfort. Absolutely. My Croc sandal actually snapped. I bought these things 5 years ago, and the Croc sandal hook thing finally snapped. So now I need a new pair, and I'm bummed. Those things last forever though. It's like the super strong rubber, and they're super comfy.
It's true. You'll be almost 36 when you need another new pair. That's pretty good.
Yeah, dude. Not bad. Not bad, dude. Yeah, I've gone full dad mode, man. Okay, cool. Let's wrap it up. Let's promote whatever you want to promote.
Let's do it.
What do you got going on? What's the best way for people to support you in this moment?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I guess listen on whatever way you can stream. I just put out a full collab album with lots of great people, various sort of styles. So if you're into eclectic stuff, you might enjoy it. I'm about to drop another new album right after here at the end of June. Dokey's got a bunch of new stuff. We're actually going to drop a little covers surprise batch of stuff here soon, so we get weird with it. And and I guess with supporting random things, if you're an artist and you're listening and you make any amount of income a year with music, reach out for Musicians Health Alliance. I support them a lot in town, and they give free health care and free dental care.
Wow.
If you make any income in the music industry. And I've managed to break my hand, at a show once, and I got it all fixed for free. And I've had cavities from eating candy and being a bad boy and gotten those fixed for free. So, without, as a musician, you don't have much money, but if you even make $5,000 to $10,000 a year touring, hit up Musicians Health Alliance, and and at least if anything bad happens to you, you're covered, and there's great people working for you, and it's all free. So it's totally worth it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, hell yeah. Well, dude, thanks so much for hanging out. It was really fun talking to you.
Yeah, totally. It was a good talking to you too, man. I'm sure I'll see you very soon.
Very soon. Very soon. Talk soon.
See you, buddy.